Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Leanne. I am the product experience specialist here at Remedian. I want to thank everyone for their time joining us for this webinar, Breaking Through the Plateau, How to Grow and Differentiate Your Accounting Practice. Um, just a few housekeeping rules as we begin this webinar. Essentially, the objective is to discuss this topic as well as have some takeaways and some insights on how to essentially identify when these plateaus occur, equip you with any actionable strategies or recognize to be able to recognize stagnation effectively, as well as to drive any meaningful growth within your firm. If there are any questions as we go through each section, please do not hesitate to leave them in the comments. We will be allocating time to review and reflect over those questions, as well as for Larry to be able to answer them as best as he can. Again, as we get started, I just wanted to introduce our company and our product. If you're not familiar with Remedian is a secure and automated way to manage tax payments for your clients. We're a next generation SaaS platform that leverages AI and automation to automate these tax payments for your clients, providing you with security and compliance, as well as visibility to this last step in the tax filing process, as well as value for your clients by them having predictability, fewer surprises, less to no risk of penalties and interest associated with late payments, and as well as having that confidence in knowing that their tax payments are made on time every time in one portal for all tax jurisdictions. I again am joined by the lovely Larry Hassan. He is a lead tax partner at McIntyre and Associates. I will let him introduce himself because that's what he can do best, and we will get started. Larry, take it away.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. Yeah, I'm a tax partner for McIntyre and Associates. We work with a lot of small business owners. We're dealing with a lot of tax payments and helping our clients make tax payments. But at the same point, when I joined the firm, we were very small, and we've grown, 10 times since joining the firm in terms of revenues and individuals or people. So we've dealt with a lot of plateaus and changes along the way. And so I'm excited to talk about how we navigated that, how we identified that, and then things we did to help mitigate that so we could jump to the next level without, figuring out how to clone ourselves. Yeah.
So I guess the first key is to essentially understand growth plateaus. Could you possibly discuss or explain what that means, and like what are the earliest indicators that a firm is approaching a growth plateau?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we talk about a plateau, there's like a stabilization of revenues despite putting in the work to continue to grow. Potentially, there can be a lot of causes of that. I mean, it could be outside market dynamics where there's just lots of competitors and we can't differentiate ourselves. So we're just not attracting. So it could be a function of pricing. It could be a function of conveying your pricing. It could be that, internally your systems and processes are very manual and you're not turning around things as quickly. So then you have to, constantly hire to manage new growth, and sometimes revenue goes up, but costs go up by a similar amount, and then you end up not really making any more money. So there's different types of kind of plateaus. So, how we try to do it is we have budgets and we have revenue targets, and we look at it as a revenue per billable hour, and then we look at all of our individuals and we determine their capacity as a function of their billable targets and the amount that they're billing per hour, and we track that on a monthly basis, and we can tell very quickly, is that going up, is that going down. We layer on multiple years for seasonality, and then through that we try to identify what is that limiting of the next stage of growth. and we really are honest with ourselves. We track the calls for potential customers, what we quote, and whether we get the work or we don't get the work, so we can be honest with ourselves if whether they were a good client, whether we're not, and we just look at the data, right? So if you don't track it, you can't fix it. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess what metrics would there be beyond revenue that firms should be monitoring to identify these plateau risks early?
Yeah, I think you turnaround time of files. So, a big one that we look at is when the file comes in, how long does it take for us from the file information coming in till when we deliver it, till when we get paid. I think it's like we're building a widget on an assembly line. We get the raw material, we do the work, we have our WIP, which is our inputs. We then deliver it to the client, it gets signed, the invoice is there, and then maybe it's net 30 days and we get paid. So how long from when we get the file in and we start putting time in, or we start working on that machine, that widget, and until we get paid? And if you're seeing that start to stretch, on average, you can start to identify that. So the turnaround time is one we monitor. We monitor, staff's recovery rate on jobs, and that's sort of getting the work done and keeping clients happy. Then on the revenue side, like I said, we monitor the new calls, the client calls, and we kind of rate them A, B, and C, and then we quote accordingly. And we want the A's. We want them to pick us. The B's we're okay with, and the C's we're not really interested, or we don't mind if they go somewhere else. And so we kind of rate them, and then we track that data as well. And that's a nice indicator of of the revenues continuing to increase. So in doing that, you're tracking the work coming in and the growth. You're tracking how long does it take before I get new work, before I'm actually getting paid for that. And that also is a function of efficiency of staff. And if you're seeing these things stretch in certain times of years, it could be an indicator of, manual processes being overwhelmed as your business starts to scale, and you need to revisit those processes, the tools that you're using to do things, to allow yourself to scale faster with the same team.
Okay, perfect. You kind of touched on, different ways in terms of client targeting and returning experience. What would you say is that the biggest internal blind spot that is most commonly preventing, especially firm leaders, from recognizing that stagnation in order to then act?
Yeah, I think the probably the most common blind spot is that smaller firms, we're doing everything. And sometimes when you're involved in doing everything, you don't always realize that you are the bottleneck that is actually slowing down the growth, and that you sometimes need to create processes to make yourself redundant, in order to allow yourselves to continue to grow. So I think, being self-reflective on that. And that happens to me all the time, where maybe I'm reviewing all certain things that go out. Well, if I've got a backlog of 50 emails that I have to review for payroll schedules, I'm the bottleneck. So
Right.
then and then I'm the bottleneck of growth, because those don't get out. The clients have to wait for things. Things take a really long time. Now I'm the bottleneck because I'm also focused on this and that and the other thing. So then once you realize, wait a second, if I'm the bottleneck, I need to come up with a process so that I'm not the bottleneck. They shouldn't sit with me for, very long till the
Right.
decision is made and we can move forward. So it's understanding that if I'm just a bottleneck on this one thing, I'm probably the bottleneck on a lot of things. And a lot of decisions are stuck until I make that decision. And that actually slows down the whole organization, because everything's designed around me or my partners. Whereas, so that it's just really identifying that, right? Yeah. And asking your team, do 360s, and am I a bottleneck? Are the things I do that frustrate you? Please tell me so we can fix it, because I'm
Right.
only one person and you can't replicate, yourself. Yeah.
Well, not yet.
No, we can maybe get a digital twins at some point. Yeah.
For sure. I guess the next question kind of moves into like service diversification
Mm-hmm.
and targeting. So how can firms then reposition themselves to attract, larger, more strategic clients, still maintaining the quality of their current portfolio? But like I know you had talked about this kind of vetting process of like the A's, B's, and C's.
Mhm.
Um, so how do you think firms can best do that?
Yeah, so you can't turn things over overnight. You have to have a plan and then a process to work there. Um, if you're working on price as your determining factor, you're slowly going to be cheaper and cheaper, and you're going to attract people that just want to pay a lower price.
Right.
Um, and then you're just going to provide the bare minimum service. It's just going to be compliance. You're going to be so busy, you're not going to have time to service those clients with all the planning and the other things that probably we all like to do. Um, so it's really important that you're honest with yourself about the skills, what you need to improve on your skills, and what your service offering is, and then where you want to go. And then you can do like, you can review your revenue model and you can say, look, we're at capacity here. We might say goodbye to a number of clients in a year because they're not where we want to go. Not a huge amount, but every year there's some that just take a ton of time, or disorganized, or frustrating, or rude to staff, don't pay bills. They're not the clients we want long term, and they come at our busiest time or they come last minute. So for me,
Okay.
I want my staff to be happy and I want their lives to be better. So what we try to do is we try to identify what's the target market that we're really good at. Is it ultra high net worth? Is it those that have really good wealth managers that just need someone around to wrap into the team? Is it small business owners? Is it physicians? Is it real estate and construction? You figure out what you like, what you're good at, and where
Okay.
your network is. And then you determine, okay, what do they need? Like, what's the niche things that they need that I can provide? And then what are the things that they need that they don't have? Right. So you're kind of figuring out how to diversify those services, whether it's identifying how to find government grants, how to do implement the newest software for real estate, and they want to be on some new accounting software or Power BI, reporting analytics, or for smaller business owners that are really busy running around, it's managing their tax payments for them. Automating something that's annoying, recurring, and high risk so that they can focus on their business is a way to diversify. It doesn't cost a lot, but it adds a
Yeah.
lot of value. So I think and then over time you will strategically move your practice over. I've been doing that over the last 5 years after meeting with an investment advisor who sort of suggested it and saying, hey,
Yeah.
you're doing a lot of work here and you're not getting paid that much for it. You'd be really good with these types of clients. You put in that level of focus and energy. So then over time, I said, okay, I'm not accepting clients unless it's this. And I had the discipline to say no. That freed me up more time to focus on the clients that appreciated our value. It
Okay.
allowed me to increase our services, um, and it's slow at the beginning, but then now you're starting to attract people in that
That's
group.
fair.
They talk about you, they figure out how great you are, and you just get more of them. And then you get less of the things you don't want and more of the things you want. Yeah.
So, okay, so then what characteristics would define like a value client in today's like accounting environment, or in terms of your strategic approach? Like who are those A's?
Yeah. So for me, it depends on, you can't have every partner in the firm wanting the same thing. I think
Yeah.
the key with a firm is we all have, diverse backgrounds, skills, and interests. So
Okay.
working as a one firm mentality where we all just sit down and say, hey, which seat on the bus are you best at? And I'm like, oh, I'm really good at this, family office style, high net worth, dealing with advisors, talking on the phone, doing planning. So I'm
Mhm.
doing more of that. I've got a partner that really likes to do audit and nonprofits and organize that. So we're like, great. If I get any of those referrals, I'm not just going to take that on. I'm going to give it to you because you're really good at that. And
Okay.
then, I've got a partner that's really into real estate and financing and corporate finance and that. So if I have a client that has that issue, I'm like, great, he will do a really good job and I'll just quarterback that decision. So we were able to find our strengths and weaknesses so that we're not creating plateaus with everybody on certain client types that it elevates the whole mix.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, that's the way to do it is work within your partnership team. And then if you feel like there's a market opportunity and you don't have the skill set, you can go out and buy that skill set to attract a new partner, get a senior staff member that wants to become a partner trained in that aspect, and then start to bring in that work for them. So, there's that sort of 10,000-foot view where you take a big step back and see what makes sense. Like what's exciting for our firm is not exciting for a big four or big eight.
Right.
They're like, oh, they want $1 million bank or a $2 million bank. I'm like, that would be so scary. Or $20 million bank, who knows? But
Yeah.
audit that we can't service. So we know where we are in the market. If someone has 200 corporations and they need a whole bunch of work done in the month of March, that's not our client. Like, it's just we can't staff up for that. We don't have outsourced services where we can do that. So we know where we sit in our market. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess my final question for this section is, what do you believe is the most overlooked advisory opportunity that firms can be implementing using the data that they already collect? So using the information that they already have.
Yeah, what I noticed is we've acquired firms over the last few years. And what I've noticed is there's a lot of hidden mining opportunities within those for corporate like reorganizations, tax planning, compensation planning, even capital dividends, things like that. A lot of these like small, easy things, these low hit items are overlooked, and they generate good revenue. They make happy clients, and I think sometimes when if we're looking to acquire, we'll go look at the files and be like, whoa, there's a lot of work here that's not being touched on some great clients. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I guess the next section is more transitioning from transactional to strategic and creating a more value-based relationship. So how can firms essentially communicate that value to the clients who are historically focused on cost rather than on outcomes?
Yeah, so I think a lot of accounting is about just every year your client shows up and gives you a bunch of stuff. You do the work, you prepare the financial statement, tax return, you send it off. So it does feel transactional. What we try to do is we try to, phrase it with our clients as we're around all year. I may be not talking to everybody every week because that's a lot, but we're available and there's a rhythm all year. And we try to pick, some firms do it with, every month they'll do a newsletter about things that are changing and tax updates so they can reach a lot of clients and give them some updated information. So they have like a touch point.
Okay.
Some have like a rhythm and a routine of, okay, we meet here, we meet then, we do this. I think the key is you want to pick, technology to wrap yourself around the client. I mean, what's nice about when we use Remitian is every month the client gets an email from Remitian with our logo, and it's a reminder that we're around and we're not just coming once a year, we're here all year round to support you. And then with our clients, Ultra High Net Worth, we meet in the fall, we meet in December. And these aren't like big meetings, these are planning meetings, right? We do a meeting in the fall to talk about the year, and we do donation planning and strategy. We meet in November to estimate the taxes to make it for the end of the year, and we set those all up for the deadlines. So and plan the next year's cash flow. So we're, available as part of the team,
Right.
and the strategic team to plan. We're not just preparing the compliance work on the back end. So we're your trusted independent advisor that if someone says, hey, you need to buy this insurance, they're thinking, Larry, I want to have a quick chat with Larry just to talk it through.
Right.
Or I want to buy some real estate. I'm going to reach out to Larry just to talk it through. Or refinancing on the mortgage or whatever. And just because they know we're there to support them and they just feel like they have our attention, and we know our clients really well, right? We organize, we have documents that we know our clients. We have summaries. I know their kids. I know what sports their kids are into. We know where their cottages are or their houses. So when they ask us a question, we have the context, we have the information, and we can answer. And when you truly know your clients, then they kind of keep coming back because that's a relationship of trust. Yeah. Yeah. I actually had a client who actually just told me, he's like, oh, I moved to you 3 years ago. He's like, I have to tell you, it is really boring. I was like, oh, boring? Why? He's like, because everything just works. You do this plan here, we meet with the advisor there, we do the cash flow here. He's like,
Yeah.
sometimes I just call you because I want to talk about my kids having like doing hockey or this, that, and the other. But like we don't, everything just sort of happens and things are automated and there's no stress. There's no anxiety April 30th. There's no anxiety of February or June because you just reach out, you're proactive, you deal with our advisor, you coordinate things, you're proactively telling me in November what I'm going to owe in February, and you set that up in Remitnium, and the advisor sends the money. Like everything just sort of happens.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's kind of boring because it's not stressful anymore. Tax used to be stressful, and now it's not. So I mean, that's our goal, right? Yeah.
It's a beautiful problem to have for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I guess the next question I have for you then is, what pricing models have you seen work best when you're bundling things like, compliance, advisory, technology-driven services like using Remedian? Like, what do you see that has worked best?
Yeah, we use a combination depending on the type of service. So ultimately, we record time to understand how much, how profitable and how much are we making per hour. But certain services, we just bill at a flat rate, whether it takes a lot of time or a little, and some you make and some you lose. Our year-end work for the client is fairly similar every year based on that first kind of stabilizer year. So then we just charge maybe 3-4% as an increase every year, unless something is significantly different. So I think it's like a hybrid. If we're doing capital dividends or some reorgs or tax planning, we try to quote a fixed fee model so that there's no surprises on that. And then people are used to kind of getting what their bills are, and they don't change significantly unless there's a reason. And then I usually call ahead of time and I explain the reason and I quantify the change and why, and we come up with a number. So I would say transparent billing is the best. Yeah.
Okay. I guess, and then how do you recommend firms measure the return on investment in terms of advisory services to justify premium pricing? Like we've spoken, to other, firms that are scared to implement what's considered premium pricing, or essentially ask for what they justifiably deserve in terms of work and effort and adding services.
Yeah, I say, like, I was just talking to a partner about this at another firm, and I said, you're only one slightly higher invoice away from knowing whether your clients actually appreciate your service or it's just because you're the lowest price. And I think, yeah, like, and then those clients will identify themselves, and then you know which ones maybe aren't the best fit for your long-term strategic objective. Like I've had clients that have called and complained about an increase in a $10 bill and refuse to pay it, and then just pay the bill from the year before, or pay the bill from 3 years ago because that's all they said they would pay. And then they keep coming back April 27th and yelling and saying they need to do the work. And I was like, okay, this can't happen anymore. So, those people don't appreciate you. So it's a two-way street, right? You want clients that listen, appreciate, follow through, are organized, and make your life easier, just like, in reverse, right? So be in a position where you're the authority and you do the work, but you want to be in like a bilateral, respectful kind of relationship. And I tell you, there's tons of clients out there that are just, they want that. And, don't let yourself kind of get bullied down by those clients that say you're too expensive. So I would say do some A/B testing, especially like if you rank them A, B, and C, and you find those C's, raise those C's and see what happens. It doesn't matter if they leave, right? Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll move on to the next topic, which is more just leveraging technology, specifically AI and automation. In your opinion, what workflows in tax and compliance are most underutilized, like from an automation standpoint?
Yeah, we Yeah, like workflow automation and project automations. Uh, we just implemented one at scale within our firm that we had one that was okay, but what we try to do is, like, if you think of us as like, again, a factory, the information comes in from the client, and then someone has to like download it and put it in a folder and then relabel all the files and then organize them and then put them into a thing, and then they put it on a spreadsheet or email somebody, okay, here's the work, it's ready to go, and then go into another software to click a button to move that workflow there, so they know they have to do the work. And that happens on every step along the way, and then steps change, things change. So I mean, building in a tool that automates that, where
Mm-hmm.
the work comes in and automatically triggers an automation to get the workflow into person's inbox. Those are great automations. So you at least know there's a standardization of how the information flows between preparer and getting delivered. So at least now there's a conveyor belt, and it goes from various stations to station, and then the person at each station knows what to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where automation is great for the same thing every single time in sequence that is going to happen. When we want to talk about, AI, it's more just taking kind of patterns and some of that information and manipulating it. So it could be those folders come in, and an automation then takes an AI, goes in and relabels all those files and tags them for you. And then
Okay.
it moves to the preparer. So now it's organized ahead of time. It's not no, the work's not done, but it's organized and ready to be worked on.
Yeah.
So you can. That's where AI would be great to implement as an automate, like a tool, um, uh, with the automation, and you can kind of do that along the chain, and
Yeah.
eventually start to replace some of those steps with AI.
Well, where do you see AI reshaping the accountant client relationship over, let's say, like the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I'm just hopeful that we will be able to assimilate more information in more formats from the clients without, a lot of clicks and manual intervention. Like I said, like if I get a picture file, a PDF, HEIC screenshot, something that came in paper that got scanned, something that came in with handwriting on it. It'd be
Yeah.
awesome if AI just kind of brings that in, organizes it, gets it ready, does some cursory reviews. So I would love if AI just like enhanced the process and helped to reduce error rate and increase and reduce the turnaround time. Like I was saying, is when the file information comes in before it gets delivered to the client, it'd be awesome if we can reduce the turnaround time and reduce the amount of errors that are occurred in manual inputs.
Hmm.
And that the information is lost because it came in 5 different sources, and I got a text on my phone and I had to forward it here. That it all gets kind of aggregated, and there's less data loss on the information flow. That would be a great use of those tools. The other thing is, you can use automation like Remitian to automate tasks that typically used to be the client's responsibility.
Yep.
That then, when that breaks down, everything else in your planning can break down too. I have a small story today. I had a client. She's not on Remitian. She's
Okay.
like the last holdout.
All right.
Sent her a tax payment schedule last year. She made the first one. She didn't make the remaining 11. We already did a payroll schedule and all this analysis and RSPs and full plan for this year.
Yeah.
And she's starting to implement. We already did a corporate tax estimate for last year. We had
Right.
personal installment estimate for last year.
Right.
Because there's this one step in the process that was missed, that wasn't my responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
because the client decided to take it on and didn't do it. It had a
Right.
cascading ripple that all the plan fell apart. We had to
Oof.
go back and recalculate what the corporate amount should be and tell her, oh, you got to pay this. Personal, we got to reconfigure that so you don't get an audit or get hit with 10,000 of penalties. We got to do it this way. So we had
Yeah.
to reconfigure all our plan and spend a whole bunch of time in a very tight window to fix it,
Okay.
just because this one step in the manufacturing of the goods, didn't happen. It's almost like Apple sending you a phone, but it's not all put together, and you got to put together the last few steps to make the phone work. I mean, that's crazy. So a good plan is only as good as like the one piece that's missing. So so using automation actually makes you, and technology makes that process efficient. Because imagine I had to do that for the 500 clients, even 100 of them. I would spend hours fixing problems that I wasn't even responsible for. And that I may get reimbursed, I may not. I mean, I'm gonna bill for it this year because they know about Remitian and they opted out of it. But with the clients using it, I don't even have to think about it. We don't even have to. We download the amount. We know it matches what's in Remitian. We do the T4. It's like no stress. I'm not even in the process.
Well, yeah. I guess the question then becomes, because like I've heard from other firms that the term voluntold, when they're adopting technology or using products like Remitian, some clients are essentially saying you don't have the choice. You're being put on the system because you haven't shown that you're able to, handle this on your own and push them there. Like, how can firms ensure that technology adoption actually improves team production instead of creating things like resistance from clients or from team members or burnout from staff?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely generates burnout from staff when clients don't opt for this, and then we have to fix it all in the last 2 weeks. I mean, I've got now that one ripple impacts 3 people on my team that have to spend, a couple hours just today fixing it. Yeah. If that happened at scale, that wouldn't happen, and I know that's happening everywhere, right? So yeah, the clients that don't do it, you just say, I'm going to bill you every minute of my time that if we have to fix anything that goes wrong. And I will. I'm going to show the invoice. And it's probably, and that plus there's penalties and interest. Yeah. And I said, this is 70 years of Remitian cost, because you missed 11 payments, 70 years worth. And when you drive that number home, people are like, oh, that's a lot. I don't want that to happen again. So, I think, and then some firms just say, no, this is our standard. You could just leave. That could be a really nice indicator of your A, B, and C. Okay. And those clients may just leave because they don't want to adopt your streamlined approach, and that's fine. I mean, Remitian also has the reminders tool baked in, so you could still make it your standard and the reminders still go out. Right. And then people can transition to payments after as it makes sense in the cadence of your firm.
That's true. That's very true. I know we're kind of approaching our time, so I have a couple more questions. One specifically on terms of building a scalable modern practice. What do you believe are operational processes that must be standardized before a firm can successfully scale?
Yeah, I mean, you have to document your processes, because when you have new employees, you don't want to have them sitting there and being trained by someone else or saying, I can't do that because I'm not trained. So having a current documented process, maybe using like a Notion that when it gets updated everywhere, that would be helpful. Embedding technology that's flexible but automated so that it makes it easier. I mean, we've embedded a technology now for workflows and time billing, and having a nexus where all your staff can go to say, this is where you got to start every day. You go in here and you click here, and this is everything on your to-do list. And then when you click in that, it goes, and you can, you create processes and automations that link the steps so it's easier when you're on board for someone to train. So, having that institutional knowledge of, I have to get to this folder and this software to get to that, to open this, it takes so much work. So having everything kind of in that smooth single location makes life easier. Turnaround time is good to monitor. Recovery on files is good to monitor. I think it's the average revenue per hour for the firm is a good measure. And like in terms of like KPIs, so turnaround time, ROI, those are good measurements. And then obviously customer satisfaction, we do send out surveys to make sure our clients are happy. Yeah. And then if someone complains, we actually track that. We have a spreadsheet that we track the complaints and what they're complaining about. and then we start to see trends, and then we actually take it earnestly and improve, and then say, okay, well, this obviously is a pain point. Do we not explain it to people well enough, or is there something we can actually do to fix it? And then inevitably we come up with strategies to do it. So it's really, you know, um, really kind of separating your ego from your business and saying, hey, if I take a step back, can I be objective of what needs to be improved to get to the next level?
Okay, wonderful. Like I said, we're getting close to time. I don't see any additional questions, but I
Awesome.
guess the final question to just wrap up and conclude our presentation is, if a firm could focus on 3 initiatives, essentially to break through a plateau within the next 12 months, what would you prioritize?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like payments is a huge pain point that makes it really busy at all concentrated at one time of year. So
Yep.
automating that process is an easy one, easy lift, easy to implement.
Mhm.
Documenting your processes and then actively trying to fix them one project at a time. And then, the one I've been really enjoying is including like a note taker in meetings where the clients are okay with it, because that's a great way to bring in the data from a conversation and assign tasks without having to then recreate it in notes and bring people in and have subsequent meetings. So it's actually a very efficient measure of time.
Yep.
Um,
And then I guess, if is there one more? Because that's about like 2 things.
oh, yeah, I guess it's like really just, I don't know if I mentioned, but like document your processes.
Oh,
Like
okay,
actually
yes. Yeah, that's
document it and improve them, right? Like document, look at them. Is there something I'm doing twice? Do things not make sense? Like in the process of going through things, we're like, whoa, why does the invoice have to go through 4 people's hands? Or why does this have to go to 4 people's hands? Or why does this need to be reviewed twice if it's only this type of work? Like there has to be trust built in the system. And like I said, I'm like a bottleneck. So I'm like, okay, the clients that are on Remitian where it's automated, I don't need to see their T4s, because it's all happening. But the
right.
ones where, there isn't automation, then I gotta do. Yeah. So
Okay, that's
yeah.
fair. Well, I guess that's pretty much it for today.
Yeah.
I
Awesome.
want to thank you, Larry, for your time, and I want to thank everybody who is on this live. A replay will be shared with you after it is concluded. And if you ever want any more information or just simply to get in touch to learn more, the email is available on the screen as well as phone number to phone in. If you are interested in Remedian or learning more about our product, if you're already not using it, there's a QR code on the screen, and you will be able to scan that, meet with our sales team where they can provide a demonstration and we can talk about your use case further. Thank you again for Larry for his time and your time participating in this webinar. Have a wonderful afternoon. Take care and goodbye.